The blood. Blood is a circulating fluid in our body made up of red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets suspended in a liquid matrix called plasma. It functions to transport oxygen and nutrients to the body tissues, remove waste products, and provide immune defense against infections and diseases. Components of blood. Blood is composed of several components including 1. Red blood cells, erythrocytes. 2. White blood cells, leukocytes. 3. Platelets, thrombocytes. 4. Plasma, a yellowish liquid portion of blood that contains water, proteins, hormones, waste products, and other substances. 1. Red blood cells. Red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes, are the most abundant cells in the blood, accounting for about 45% of its volume. They contain a protein called hemoglobin, which helps transport oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues. Red blood cells are disc-shaped and lack nuclei and organelles. They are produced in the bone marrow and have a lifespan of approximately 120 days. Characteristics of red blood cells. The characteristics of red blood cells are 1. Biconcave shape. Red blood cells have a unique biconcave disc shape, which allows them to be flexible and squeeze through narrow blood vessels. 2. Lack of nucleus. Red blood cells do not contain a nucleus, enabling them to have more space for hemoglobin and better transport of oxygen. 3. Contains hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that binds oxygen in the lungs and releases it to the body's tissues. 4. Lifespan. The average lifespan of red blood cells is 120 days. 5. Produced in the bone marrow. Red blood cells are produced in the bone marrow as an immature cell called a reticulocyte, which develops into a mature erythrocyte. Functions of red blood cells. The main function of red blood cells is to transport oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues and to carry away carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of metabolism. This is possible due to the presence of hemoglobin, a protein in red blood cells that can bind to oxygen and carbon dioxide. In addition to this, red blood cells also play a role in regulating the pH of the blood and maintaining its viscosity. Adaptations of erythrocytes. The unique adaptations of erythrocytes are as follows. 1. Biconcave shape. This shape provides erythrocytes with a large surface area to volume ratio, which aids in oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. 2. Lack of nucleus. This feature allows maximum space for hemoglobin molecules, which enables blood cells to carry more oxygen. 3. Presence of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin molecules can bind to 4 oxygen molecules, allowing erythrocytes to carry oxygen from the lungs to other parts of the body. 4. Flexible and deformable. The flexible nature of erythrocytes enables them to change shape to fit through narrow capillaries without rupturing. 5. Long lifespan. The lifespan of erythrocytes is around 120 days, enabling them to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide efficiently for an extended period of time. Adjustments of red blood cells, erythrocytes, at high altitudes. At high altitudes, red blood cells adjust by increasing their production of the oxygen-carrying protein hemoglobin, which allows them to carry more oxygen. This adaptation is known as altitude acclimatization. Additionally, the body may also increase the concentration of red blood cells in the blood, known as erythrocytosis, to further enhance oxygen-carrying capacity. These adaptations help to improve the body's ability to deliver oxygen to tissues in low-oxygen environments. Figure 4.13, Red blood cells. 2. White blood cells. White blood cells, also known as leukocytes, are a vital component of the immune system. They are produced in the bone marrow and circulate throughout the body in the blood. There are several types of white blood cells, each with specific functions in the immune response. For example, neutrophils are important for fighting bacterial infections, while lymphocytes play a key role in the body's defense against viruses and other pathogens. White blood cells also help to identify and remove damaged or abnormal cells, and modulate immune responses to prevent injury to healthy tissues. Figure 4.14, White blood cells. Characteristics of white blood cells, leukocytes. White blood cells, or leukocytes, have several key characteristics. 1. They are produced in the bone marrow and circulate in the blood, but also can move into tissues to fight infections and respond to injury. 2. There are different types of white blood cells, including neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. Each type has a specific function in the immune system. 3. White blood cells are capable of recognizing foreign substances, such as bacteria, viruses or parasites, and responding to them by producing an immune response. 4. They also have the ability to pass through the walls of blood vessels and enter tissue where they can identify and eliminate damaged or abnormal cells. 5. White blood cells have a nucleus, which enables them to modify their shape and move toward the site of infection or injury. 6. Additionally, some white blood cells are capable of producing antibodies that recognize and neutralize specific pathogens. Overall, white blood cells are an essential part of the immune system, helping to defend the body against infections and maintaining the integrity of healthy tissues. Functions of white blood cells, leukocytes. White blood cells, also known as leukocytes, play several important functions in the immune system. Here are some of their key functions. 1. They defend the body against infections by identifying and destroying foreign invaders such as bacteria, viruses, and parasites. 2. They help to remove dead or damaged tissue and cellular debris, promoting healing after an injury or infection. 3. They release chemicals called cytokines that help to coordinate the immune response, recruiting other immune cells to help fight infections. 4. They can recognize and eliminate cancer cells or cells infected with viruses before they can multiply and cause disease. 5. They help to modulate immune responses, preventing them from causing damage to healthy tissues. 6. Some types of white blood cells produce antibodies, which are proteins that recognize and neutralize specific pathogens. Overall, white blood cells are an essential part of the immune system, helping to maintain the body's health by detecting and eliminating threats to the body. 3. Plasma. Plasma is the pale, yellowish liquid component of blood that makes up about 55% of the total volume of blood. Plasma contains a variety of important substances, including 1. Water, which comprises about 90% of plasma volume. 2. Plasma proteins, which include albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. These proteins help to maintain blood volume and pressure, transport substances such as hormones and fats, and facilitate blood clotting. 3. Nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, and lipids, which are used by the body cells for energy and metabolism. 4. Waste products such as urea, which is excreted by the kidneys. 5. Hormones, enzymes, and other signaling molecules that regulate various bodily functions. 6. Electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, and chloride, which help to maintain proper fluid balance and cellular function. Plasma serves several important functions in the body, including transporting nutrients, hormones, and waste products, regulating blood volume and pressure, and contributing to the immune response. 4. Platelets, thrombocytes. Platelets, also known as thrombocytes, are tiny, colorless cell fragments found in the blood that play a critical role in blood clotting, or hemostasis. Some key features and functions of platelets include 1. They are formed in the bone marrow from large cells called megakaryocytes. 2. They are the smallest type of blood cell, typically measuring about 2-4 micrometers in diameter. 3. Platelets adhere to and form a plug to stop bleeding from damaged blood vessels. 4. They release factors that activate other components of the coagulation cascade to reinforce the clotting process. 5. Platelets contain granules filled with chemicals such as serotonin, which help to promote vasoconstriction and limit blood loss. 6. In addition to their role in clotting, platelets also play a role in immune function and inflammatory response. Overall, platelets are a critical component of hemostasis and help to prevent excessive blood loss after injury or trauma. Figure 4.15. Platelets. Effects of HIV on white blood cells. HIV is a virus that attacks and destroys CD4+ T cells, which are a type of white blood cell that plays a crucial role in the immune system. Here are some of the effects that HIV can have on white blood cells. 1. HIV specifically targets and infects CD4+ T cells, which can lead to a decline in their numbers over time. 2. As levels of CD4+ T cells decrease, the body's ability to mount an effective immune response is compromised, making it more susceptible to infections and other health problems. 3. HIV can also affect other types of white blood cells, such as monocytes, macrophages, and dendritic cells, which are critical for detecting and responding to infections. 4. HIV infection can lead to chronic activation of the immune system, which can cause inflammation and damage to tissues throughout the body. 5. Over time, the loss of CD4+ T cells can lead to the development of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, which is characterized by severe immune dysfunction and increased susceptibility to opportunistic infections and cancers. Overall, HIV infection can have profound effects on white blood cells, impairing the body's immune response and increasing the risk of infections and other health problems. Revision Exercise 4.4. 1. What are the components of blood? Blood is composed of several different types of cells and proteins, including 1. Red blood cells, erythrocytes, carry oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues and remove carbon dioxide from those tissues. 2. White blood cells, leukocytes, help to fight off infections and disease by identifying and attacking foreign substances such as bacteria, viruses, and cancer cells. 3. Platelets, thrombocytes, cell fragments that play a critical role in blood clotting, or hemostasis. 4. Plasma, the pale, yellowish liquid component of blood that makes up about 55% of the total volume of blood. Plasma contains a variety of important substances, including water, plasma proteins, nutrients, waste products, hormones, electrolytes, and signaling molecules. These components work together to transport oxygen, fight off infections, stop bleeding, and maintain various bodily functions. 2. In which form is oxygen transported in blood? Oxygen is transported in the blood in the form of oxyhemoglobin, which is a complex molecule that forms when oxygen binds to hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein found in red blood cells that is responsible for carrying oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues. When oxygen is inhaled into the lungs, it diffuses across the alveolar membrane and binds to hemoglobin in the red blood cells, forming oxyhemoglobin. The oxyhemoglobin is then transported through the blood to the body's tissues, where it releases the oxygen molecules for use in cellular respiration. 3. Why is it risky to leave a burning charcoal in a poorly ventilated room? Leaving a burning charcoal in a poorly ventilated room can be risky because it produces carbon monoxide (CO) gas, which is highly toxic and can be deadly in high concentrations. When charcoal burns, it uses up oxygen and produces carbon dioxide (CO2) and other gases, including carbon monoxide, which is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. In a poorly ventilated room, the carbon monoxide can build up to dangerous levels, especially if there is no source of fresh air to replace the oxygen that's being consumed by the charcoal. If a person inhales too much carbon monoxide, it can bind to hemoglobin in their blood, preventing oxygen from being carried to their body's tissues. This can lead to oxygen deprivation and can cause symptoms such as headache, dizziness, nausea, and confusion. In severe cases, carbon monoxide poisoning can result in loss of consciousness, brain damage, and even death. Therefore, it is important to always use charcoal grills and other appliances in well-ventilated areas to avoid the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. 4. List 2 differences between red blood cells and white blood cells. 2 main differences between red blood cells and white blood cells are: 1. Structure. Red blood cells are disc-shaped cells that have no nucleus and contain a red-colored protein called hemoglobin, which gives them their characteristic color and ability to carry oxygen. White blood cells, on the other hand, are larger cells that have a nucleus and lack hemoglobin. 2. Function. Red blood cells are primarily responsible for carrying oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues and removing carbon dioxide from those tissues. White blood cells, on the other hand, are a key component of the body's immune system and help to fight off infections and disease by identifying and attacking foreign substances such as bacteria, viruses, and cancer cells. 5. Describe the blood clotting process. The process of blood clotting, or hemostasis, occurs in several steps. 1. Vascular spasm. When a blood vessel is injured, it constricts or narrows in response, helping to reduce blood flow to the site of injury. 2. Platelet blood formation. Platelets, cell fragments in the blood, rush to the site of injury and adhere to the damaged blood vessel walls. They can also release chemicals that attract more platelets to the site, forming a plug that helps to stop bleeding. 3. Coagulation. Blood proteins called clotting factors become activated and work together to form a fibrin clot, which reinforces the platelet plug and forms a mesh-like structure that keeps blood cells and fluid from escaping through the damaged blood vessel walls. 4. Clot retraction. Over time, the fibrin clot begins to contract and pull the edges of the damaged blood vessel closer together, helping to seal the wound and prevent further bleeding. 5. Fibrinolysis. Once the injury has healed, the body must break down the fibrin clot to restore normal blood flow. This process is called fibrinolysis and involves the activation of enzymes that break down the fibrin mesh, allowing blood cells and fluid to flow freely again. 6. What are the effects of HIV on white blood cells? HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, can have a significant impact on white blood cells, particularly a type of white blood cell called CD4 T cells. HIV infects and destroys CD4 T cells, which are critical components of the body's immune system. Over time, as more and more CD4 T cells are killed by the virus, the body becomes increasingly vulnerable to infections and other diseases. This is because CD4 T cells are responsible for coordinating the body's immune response to these threats, and without them, the immune system cannot function properly. In addition to depleting CD4 T cells, HIV can also interfere with the function of other types of white blood cells, such as macrophages and dendritic cells. These cells play critical roles in identifying and attacking foreign substances in the body, and their dysfunction can lead to a weakened immune response and increased susceptibility to infections and disease. Ultimately, the effects of HIV on white blood cells and the immune system as a whole can lead to the development of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, a condition characterized by a severely weakened immune system and a high risk of life-threatening infections and cancers.